Cartier City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
Our own Kelvin. Kelvin has been a club member for a long time, and he will speak on Murphy's Law and Thai law. If you read the newsletter, it will be a little bit more explicit than that, but after 8 years of retirement, Kelvin decided he didn't like sitting around doing nothing. So now he's back to being busy, and he's going to talk to us today. Give him a warm PCEC welcome. Would you like this one? It's supposed to be there permanently.
Many hands. All right, thanks for offering to let me speak again today. I'll get the hang of this and I'm going to turn it on. Right, thank you. I just started just a little bit of a warm-up. I bought a house recently and I moved into it, and of course many things needed to be done. But there's a mosquito issue. Ron's not here to talk about mosquitoes, but I did a bit of research on mosquitoes and came across a fascinating video of a mosquito biting a human. Hadn't seen it before, but the proboscis that the mosquito puts in, it's actually flexible and it looks around inside the human body underneath the skin to look for a little blood vessel and then drains it. And I've never seen that before. I thought they always drilled straight in, but they don't. So I've gone on this little journey of how to get plants into the backyard and look for places where mosquitoes like to live and things like that. So it's given me a whole new reason to think about things, you know, apart from the law. So today's topic is Murphy's Law, and I hope you all know what that is. It's when something will go wrong, can go wrong at a given time. A little example is for guys, you know, you're taking the door off the hinge, and 3 of those screws will come out, and the last one will bust off. You know, that's just a little example of Murphy's Law. But when it comes to the law, you've got Thai law here, because we're living in Thailand. You've got international law, and anything that can go wrong will go wrong at a given time. Now, basically, this presentation is not legal advice. Okay, I can't give you legal advice unless you're talking about the will or living will, something like that. Now, the Cartier City Expats Club doesn't endorse anything I'm saying, or me, or Thai 888. Although these are case studies and true, I've changed the names around and places and things like that, so as not to be defamed or anything like that. So it's not meant to cause any harm or danger to anyone. And it's for storytelling purposes today only. Now, the services we offer, Thai 888, there's a whole range of criminal, civil, family, and the funeral arrangements and wills and things like that. So we'll just go through the intro, some services. I've got 4 case studies, which I hope you find interesting. And then we'll have some Q&A. Now, we're foreigners living in Thailand, so we have to accept that. It's a strange place and it has strange customs and stranger laws. The example of the TM30 law, that's a 40-year-old law which goes back to when there wasn't many foreigners here, put it that way. But they're still on the books. And some of the laws that I deal with in probate are still on the books. And we can't change that. So it's not a Christian country, and if you looked at your visa, it would say that you're an alien. So if you keep that in mind, you're living in Thailand, different culture, different languages, it's non-English speaking, and all of the legal documents are in the Thai language. You need all those legal documents, as you know. Just have a look at the TM30 and your will is written in Thai and English, that sort of thing. Now, just about every week someone will come into the office and say, well, it doesn't happen in my country like that. So that's why I'm putting this up. This is Thailand, has different laws, different things like that. So you have to go with the program. Now, just a little intro about where we started. Jeff and I started about 7 years ago in Office 10 in Vitaly 5D. We actually slept on that sofa for over a year before we decided to set up shop. And now, Miss Jeff has become quite a wealthy young lady. She has a lot of properties, cars, and things like that. Largely, I have a lot of influence there with being the ATM, but the structure there is one that we often laugh about because the asset base now is so big, but it's so entwined in each other, right? For example, the office she owns, but it's mortgaged back to me. So if something happens to Jeb, I can still keep the company running. But if something happens to Jeb, she dies, I have to go through this whole legal process to retain the company as a foreigner. I have to shift people around and shareholders and things like that. So it becomes very difficult over time. So over 7 years, these assets have grown, and now we find ourselves in a position where we laugh about who's going to go first, who's going to get the headache of probate, looking after the estate. I'd just like to thank the club for a minute because of the old days in the Tavern by the Sea when I was starting up. Being here and you guys networking with each other, telling your friends about our company and all that sort of thing has grown our business into 2 offices now. And we also registered Funerals Abroad, which is our second company now. And largely thanks to you guys networking and things like that, we've managed to grow. So we do the whole part of the law and funerals abroad at the one office. So you don't have to run around town now finding things. Okay, I have to call a witness to the stand. The stand is over here. It's a little bit of light humour. Dr.
This is Gavin Duress.
You'll love it. Okay, these are actual questions and answers from the Thai, not the Thai, but just general lawyer stuff. Now, Dr. Ren, the evidence you give today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Maybe.
Yes or no? Bailiff, put him in the jail.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Ren, before you performed the autopsy, did you check for a pulse?
No.
Did you check for blood pressure?
No.
Did you check for breathing?
No.
So then, is it possible that the patient was alive when you began the autopsy?
No.
How can you be so sure?
because his brain was sitting on my desk in a jar.
Check the wallet.
I see, but the patient may have been alive, nevertheless.
Yes, it is certainly possible he could have been alive and practicing law somewhere.
Well. Now, Dr. Wren, I'm sure you're an intelligent and honest man.
Thank you. If I weren't under oath, I'd consider returning the compliment.
Now, Dr. Wren, how many of your autopsies have you performed on dead people?
All of them. I found early in my career that the live ones put up too much of a fight.
Okay, Dr. Wren, did she have 3 children?
Yes.
And how many were boys?
None.
Were there any girls?
Your Honor, I think I need a new attorney. Can I get a new attorney, please?
Okay, one more. How was your first marriage terminated?
By death?
And by whose death was it terminated?
Why don't you take a guess?
Now, Doctor, isn't it true that when a person dies in his sleep, he doesn't know about it until the next morning?
Did you actually pass the bar exam?
Doctor, do you recall the time that you examined the body?
The autopsy started around 8:30 p.m.
And Mr. Denton was dead at the time?
If not, he was by the time I finished.
Okay, thank you. You're excused, but you're still on parole. Now,
Can I hire you in advance?
there we go. Back to the pointer. What have I done? All right. Now, this is a case study based on fact, but again, for defamation purposes, things have been changed around. Do you guys mind if I walk around a bit? I can see the screen much better. Now, a French national died in Pattaya. I was on the beach having my drinks, and we got the call from the building manager. So we went around there to look after the situation when the police arrived, videotape some things and question some people. The ambulance arrived for the body, was taken off to the Bangalore morgue, and we just let it rest because then it was secure and we could go back the next day. Now, over a period of a couple of weeks, I saw what the estate was worth. So let's say $6 million US in land, cash, and cars, condominium, that sort of thing. Now, I'll explain the shady characters. You had there was the estranged girlfriend of 6 years. There was the ex-wife. There was the daughter. There was the accountant. And a few other people that flew in for a free fee, because when someone dies intestate, there's no will, which means that other people can go to the court to testate that, to testify, to see if they can get some of that 6 million. Now, under the law, France, you have the 2 remaining siblings, which are his brother and sister. They were 75-year-olds living in France, and no English. And so, by the law, this property would go to them, that asset base would go to them. Now, under French law, they want to have an executor here in Thailand because they don't want to fly here, they're very old. So we took care of the funeral, and the family was quite grateful for that because they didn't have to come here, we just sent the video back to them. Then we made some power of attorney, which we sent to them, which of course had to be in French language, English and Thai. So we sent all the paperwork over to these people to try and sign all of this. They couldn't make heads or tails of it, so we got onto the video and said, sign here, do this. So once that was done, we could continue on with doing some certain things. Now, one of these guys was French, living in Thailand. He flew over to France and saw the family, got them to sign a bunch of paperwork, and they said, well, okay, because Calvin's already done the funeral and things like that, let's make him the co-executor. So, okay, fine. Hello? Under French law, being an executor, you can have a senior executor and you can have a subordinate. And that's the paperwork they sign. But in Thai law, the executors have 50-50 power, 50-50. So that means if I do something illegal, the other party needs to sign off on it, and they'll go to jail as well. And if they do something illegal, I go to jail. So what happened here was, the co-executor came back with the paperwork under the impression that he was the senior executor. Not the case. Everything he tried to do, I said, no, you can't do that, it's illegal. I'm not going to do it. So push came to shove, and we started fighting amongst ourselves. And then, because I wouldn't do what he wanted me to do, he made it his mission to get rid of me as an executor. But the Thai law being the Thai law, we'd already submitted the paperwork, and so for me to get out or be kicked out, I had to be back in court again, resigning. So, turns out this co-executor, the one that wanted to kick me out, he had a mortgage with the person that had died for 2 pieces of land that he built his resort on. So therein lies a conflict of interest because he was in charge of the estate and he owed money on 2 plots of land. So to get rid of me, that's it, great, he gets everything. Anyway, 4 court cases later, 4 lawyers, 4 executors. Now this is where the Murphy's Law kicks in, right? I go to court in my court gear and I'm ready to give testimony to the judge. But I didn't know, they brought in another 3 people to apply to be the executor. 3 more. Because he died intestate, they can do this. That's the first point of this procedure in probate. So we've now got all these people. The judge said, go outside and work it out. So we went outside and everyone starts talking about percentages, how much they want. They took out so many percent that there was nothing left for the family. So I said, I'm done. I resigned. I filled out all the paperwork, took it back into the judge and said, you know, let him carve it up. I'm not interested. So you had all those players. We had an ex-wife, a current girlfriend, and a shady accountant, and a shady co-executor. So after I resigned, I had a look at the whole thing, and because he had everything wrapped up in a company, foreigners can only own 49%. But when he died, he had a share transfer agreement back to him for 21% from someone else. That gave him 70%. under the Foreign Businesses Act, that situation should not have gone to the local court. It should have gone to a higher court because it comes under the Foreign Businesses Act. And people like us can't get involved in that. That's a government level. So only the government can take that to court and prosecute it. So I went up that avenue, met with the DSI. They said, yeah, we can prosecute that, all the rest of it. So I went as high as I could. And then it just fell apart. I'd resigned, so I really didn't care. I don't know what's happened with that case. I'm pretty sure that some people made some money out of it. And I'm not involved, so. But just there, if you don't have a will and you've got assets, that's what could happen. Now, case study 2, there is a Thai will and there's a UK beneficiary. There's money, condo, investment condos. And anyone have any dealings with Old Mutual in the UK? Anyone? Maybe you've heard of them. Well, that was a learning curve. 18 months chasing these people. This, I was named the executor in this will. And Old Mutual had invested his money into this Axiom lawyers. Now, Axiom lawyers lost 99.6% of the money. So when they sent me the money, sent me the paperwork, I could see that it was suspended. These lawyers, there were 6 of them, set up this scam. They're all disbarred now, and 3 of them are in jail. But they gutted his account. Then I've still got control of the condo, and the mail was coming through to the condo, his mail from Old Mutual. So I said to them, can't we undo this, and I'm the executor, and pass it on to the sister? They said, yeah, but you need to pay some money, £375. And I said, but why the fund's been suspended? They said, well, that's just what it is. So I looked at that and I thought, well, why would you spend money on something when there's nothing there to get it transferred across? Anyway, I got a mail at the condo, and it had in there £13,334 as a cash component. So I said, well, how do I get that? Oh, you just send all this to us and we'll do that. So I did all the things they wanted. I sent in the paperwork. They said yes, and then they changed it. And then over 18 months I dealt with 3 or 4 different people on the help desk. And eventually, this Old Mutual, the fund is in the Isle of Man because it's a tax haven. Now, if you've got anything to do with a tax haven, this is what you're probably going to experience. They asked me first to address the UK component, then they bounced it to the Isle of Man. And the Isle of Man, I don't think they get too much business there about this. So I actually got to call them up and say, well, do I need to do probate there? They said, oh no, we can waive that. You've got a will, that's fine. So went all the way through this with them, got back to Old Mutual and said, I don't need probate from Isle of Man. And they said, oh, we'd feel better if you did get it. I thought, how dare you? They would feel better, but it's not policy and procedure, it's not law. So I've been dealing with them, and all of a sudden we said, oh, okay, we'll deal with the Isle of Man. So they've got a little probate application form, and I went through that. And I can't finish it because the original paperwork went to England. So when you get a will and It's all been translated by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and things like that. That goes to them and they keep it. They don't give it back. You can't use it somewhere else. It's gone. So if you don't get 2, 3, 5 copies in the beginning, it's not going to work. So the paperwork they demanded, I don't have. It's gone. So the 13,000 odd pound is left for Old Mutual to just take out their fees every 3 months. That'll be gone in 5 years. They get to keep it. That's ongoing, but I think it's closed as well. So if you guys have got offshore accounts and things like that, you know, you need to really consider what would happen if you pass away. Now, Dr. Wren, you're still under oath. Dr. Wren, all your responses must be oral, okay? What school did you go to?
Oral.
Oh.
I'll do the quick Q&A if you like.
Were you present when your picture was taken?
Are you shitting me?
Well, me. When he went, had you gone, and had she, if she wanted to and were able, for the time being, excluding all the restraints on her not to go, gone also, would you have brought you, meaning you and she, with him to the station?
Objection, Your Honor, objection. That question should be taken out and shot.
So the date of conception of the baby was August the 8th,
Yes,
and what were you doing at the time?
I was getting laid.
Alright, Dr. Wren, last question. Did you say he was shot in the woods?
No, sir, I said he was shot in the lumbar region.
Alright, thank you for our witness. A couple more things. What have we got? Case study 3. Will was made in Australia. Okay, valid here because Thailand accepts some of the other foreign laws, but it needs to be translated into Thai by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and then can be submitted to the court. So the will stated that what assets are in Australia went to the sister, and what assets are in Thailand go to the brother. Now, we made a POA, power of attorney, iron English, to get the family to resign effectively. So there's a couple of parts to this. You make an application to the court for probate. Second part is that the people nominated as an executor have got 15 days to resign. Then the new executor gives testimony in court. Then the judge either appoints that person or doesn't. So I went to court this day with the power of attorney from the brother and sister to resign and then appoint me. And I gave testimony to the judge. And the judge rejected that request. There's one particular judge in the Pattaya court which is so strict. The other guys just wave it through and say, oh, he's got a power of attorney, don't worry about it. They were all notarised from Australia, everything like that. So the bottom line there was that the judge, he questioned me on why they're not here. And I said, well, they've got a job to do, they've got family, they've got expenses and all that sort of thing, so please excuse them. He said, no, I can't do that, they'll have to fly in. So the funny thing is they fly in, they go to court and they say, we want Kelvin to be the executor, which is what the POA said. And all they want to do is see that person standing in the court under oath. But the same outcome. So your executor should be someone here, or a co-executor, someone here. Otherwise they have to fly in, expenses and all that sort of thing. If they're not able to fly in, then you've got a whole new set of problems as well. So an executor is the power player here. That's the person taking care of your wishes when you're not here. So if you nominate your friend, maybe they're not up to the task. Given all of the scenarios and all the possible things that could go wrong, you really need someone legal. And so if you make Thai 888 or myself co-executor, that family doesn't have to fly in, because half of the executorship is here, me. So think about that when you're making your wills and testimonies. All right, this is the last case study. This is, I'll go up the back here. This guy came into my office in January this year, and I drew up a new will for him, and he unfortunately died in April this year. So we sprang into action, which is contact the embassy, and when you contact the embassy you need a letter of release. That's why on this will preparation form here on the back table, it has about your next of kin. Without a next of kin, not much will happen. Next of kin makes a small email to say their blood relative or wife, and they allow someone to take over. So taking over means that my staff would go to the embassy, pick up the letter of release, bring it down to the hospital, and then back to Bangkok, and then back to Pattaya. It goes around and around and around, but our staff don't know what they're doing, so you need that next of kin thing. So when I contacted the embassy, they said, oh, we've already been contacted by the next of kin. And I said, oh, how's that? Because I know he didn't have any family. Because I wrote his will in January. They said, under the Privacy Act, I'm sorry, we can't talk to you. And I said, well, please send my email to whoever your next of kin is that you've got listed on the embassy. So they did that, and no response, no response. Somehow they managed to get the cremation done and the funeral done. And then next thing I know, it was quite a large estate. Bank accounts started being shut down, and land started being transferred. And I was thinking, oh, what's going on? So we all flew up to Chiang Mai and went to each bank and asked them, because we had a grant from the court as well. Right? So there's two grants running around, one based on the 2017 will and one based on the 2019 will, us. So we've both got court orders saying we could do everything. But when a court order is given, it takes 30 days to kick in. You can't do much within the 30 days. So what happened? He applied, the next of kin applied in Chiang Mai, not Pattaya where he passed away. So this complicated things enormously. So we flew up to Chiang Mai, and then I paid extra money to go and see the judge. Said, how could this be? He said, well, I can't determine that until 2 months. So he couldn't put a freeze on anything because the case hasn't been heard yet, that's coming up. So we went around to all of the banks with our grant saying, please freeze everything. I think we were successful in 8 or 9 things. Then we went to every building manager and said, don't show a letter, you know, the clearance letter from the condos so you can't sell them. So we had all the building managers on side, bank managers, that sort of thing. That one's still running. I actually sent some SMS to this guy's phone, this one who's acting as the other co-executor, and he knows that we know what he's doing. So Jeb, my partner at the law company, she filed in Chiang Court a civil motion, a criminal motion, because he knows there's a 2019 will which voids the 2017 will. It says that plainly there, it's void. But he's been acting on the 2017 will, which is a criminal offence. So Jeff's posted 3. There's civil act, criminal, and application to be the executors under the 2019 will. So you see how complicated things can get if it's not done properly. So this estate, what we know of, is 300 million. That's not bad if you can get it and run away. So we've got another month to go on that one. How did that one go, John?
What's the story with the new stiff, Mr. Rosenberg? We bombing him or what?
Who is it, Harry?
Albert Frederick Schwartz, killed in a traffic accident.
Oh, prep Mr. Schwartz for cremation, 2:30 tomorrow, Harry.
Whoa!
Nay.
Boss, come and check the equipment out of this guy, will you?
Holy. 35 years in the business, I thought I'd seen everything. Harry, fetch my tools and a gallon of formaldehyde. Well, Mr. Schwartz, you cannot be cremated with such an impressive private part. It will be preserved in the name of science for all posterity. Hi, honey, I'm home.
Would you like a drink?
Not just at the moment, dear. Have I got something to show you?
Oh my God! Schwartz is dead!
What's the story with the new... What's the story with the...
So, wrapping up, how am I doing for time? About right? Okay. So we break it all down. You get that dreaded call. I'm getting a few of them. The other morning it was 5:30 a.m. from Germany. Papa had passed away in Pattaya. Young guy, only 60. So we kicked into action. We do all that sort of thing. Now we have broad funerals. I got staff for doing all this. So I don't have to worry too much about this. I just worry about the probate at the end of the day. A lot of legal issues with the embassies, arranging the funeral, cremation, that sort of thing. Then we do the sea burial thing now, which is really nice. I'm going to have my ashes dumped in the sea at Sudbury, the naval base. That's a nice way to go. Now, when someone passes away, you make an application to the court. And that's just to get a court date. Yeah? So that could take like 3 months. 3 months. So your partner needs some money to live on. If I'm the executor of the will, and I know there's some money in the accounts, I will pay everything. And I'll claim it back as the executor. So if the girlfriend needs some cash to live on, or the rent has to be paid or something like that, I can do all that knowing that there's some money in the account. If there's no money in the account, I have to call the family and say, what's going to happen here? So just be aware of that. Any documents that you have to go overseas, they all have to be translated at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They have to be certified, translated by their translators, and nice stamps all over it, all bound together. And you can use those overseas. So if someone has overseas assets and they need the death certificate from here, it needs to go to Ministry of Foreign Affairs. If they've got assets in, say, 5 or 6 banks and things over in the UK or another country, you'll need 5 or 6 copies, because they each keep it. And if one keeps it, it's going to be very difficult to go back and get another one. So bear that in mind. Now, for all you UK people here, you have the HM Courts and Tribunal Services. And for the Americans, you have the FACTA and the IRS laws. Now, 2.11 of the HM Courts and Tribunal, there's a question there that says, did that person have any foreign assets? The reason to ask that question is because all of those assets get added into their system, and then they work out that threshold, £325,000. Over that, 40% tax. So if you pass away here and you have to apply for probate in England, that question is going to come up. If you're a UK citizen and you don't tick that box, you could have some problems later on. I'm not a UK citizen. I just don't see that box if I have to do the probate for England. But it raises another issue too with the Isle of Man. Most of our wills say Thailand assets only. Thailand assets only. Because the old mutual, I thought, all the paperwork was in the UK. And because the person was domiciled here, because their mail was coming here, that means they're here under our law, Thai law, but not Isle of Man law. So that whole case boiled down to if we had have added and Isle of Man, all assets for Thailand only and Isle of Man, it would have gone away. But they didn't allow us to do that. So if you've got assets somewhere else that you're hiding from IRS or from England or something like that, just make sure that clause is covering your overseas stuff as well, or make another will. Make a will for UK, make a will for America. But at the end of the day, they're trying to suck all your assets into tax. So this is a very simple process, but you can imagine like 18 months to 2 years, I'm working on one of these cases. Hit a brick wall here, come back, go over here, finally nail them down to a point, and then they just turn the page. They just switch it into something different. Like the Isle of Man, it wasn't about probate at all. It was about the Company Act, came down to. Saying, oh, for security purposes, we're not going to do that. So they switched it from probate to company law after 18 months. That's what they do. So Broad Funerals has been registered now at the DVD. I have a work permit which allows me to work in both of these companies. That's taken like 8 years. So, you know, you're subject to a number of laws. It's not just Thai laws, you're subject to many, many laws where your assets are. I just can't press this point enough. If you want to do away with all that nonsense with those banks and investment companies and all the rest of it, Most of this stuff, because you live here, is done on the internet. And you should have a little book. It should have your name, your account number, your PIN, your login, because the beneficiary who's going to get everything, they can log in when you passed away and drain the account. Take it all out. Why would you want to run the gauntlet like me with the Isle of Man in England and America and all this? Have a book, have everything in there, put it in a safe box somewhere, so when the time comes, someone could just log in and drain everything out. Otherwise, 2 years down the road. They don't want to give you money back. When you go and sign up for your account, you say, okay, name, passport, da-da-da. That's it. Try getting it out. Oh, have you got form X, Y, Z? Have you got this? Have you got that? So think about your asset base there. I'm not sure that's going to work. Is that off the stick or?
Yeah. Hold every memory as you go. And every road
This is the sea burial at study friend of mine, Jamie. 52 years old. Went back to the UK and 9 days later was dead. Left a big mess. Lots of gear, properties, lots of things that we had to undo. And it's quite a nice say goodbye, this ceremony. They supply the flowers and the bits and pieces. Okay, we're just about done. Q&A now or? Okay. Question time. Well, thanks Murphy's Law for not allowing the slide thing to screw up.
On your left here.
Yes, what if you have a relative that you no longer have contact with or want contact with? Can you just put down no relatives at all, or if you don't want them to know? Or?
Well, they won't know if you write your will. You don't have to show them if you've got, they don't need to know. But it's when someone puts down an executor and they don't know about it until you pass away, that's the problem. They say, I don't want to do this. Really. But beneficiaries, things like that. If there's a will, it's more or less 98% right that those people will get those assets. If there's no will, that's a problem.
On him.
The book with the passwords and login account details and the advice to sort of, if I passed away, my wife would just log in and enter the accounts. Would that not be logged as happening after my death and potentially cause...
Sure, but she's a beneficiary.
So in the interim, she wouldn't run into any problems because ultimately it would show that she's a beneficiary?
Yeah. So it's just the court process could take like 6 months to get the full grant through and the money starts flowing, and in that time someone's got to live for 6 months, So cleaning out the account is okay as long as you're a beneficiary. The bank's not going to know. They don't freeze things until you go there. Like we went to Chiang Mai with a grant and froze things. If you don't have that, they'll say, get out. They're not going to freeze anything. Sorry.
On the left, please.
Pat?
I think you might have just answered my question, but okay, so what if you don't have a will, but say for example the only asset you have in Thailand is your bank account? and you have given somebody the ATM PIN number for that, can then they go in and just wipe it out? How long would they have to do that? At any time?
Well, that's a problem because they're not named a beneficiary.
Yeah, but you just said the bank wouldn't know if they would just go to the ATM.
Well, they have those little cameras and things there. If someone comes out of the woodwork that is a succession beneficiary, meaning family, brother, sister, nephews, if they find out that someone's cleaned the account, they might come after you if they've got the money. If there's small money, it's not a worry, but a lot of people here have 800,000 in the bank. It's sort of worth going for. But if there's no real beneficiary, you could end up in problems.
Will the bank allow you to name somebody as your beneficiary?
No, because the power of attorney finishes when you finish. We don't have enduring power of attorneys here like America. The power of attorney here finishes when you finish. If you wanted a living will, that would take care of you when you're in a vegetative state, and someone could go and pay the hospital and get the money out of the account and all the rest of it. But if you don't have any documentation and you start clearing out a bank account, good luck.
I'm going to put you under oath for this one.
Thanks.
And can you add, if someone is on your account, your bank account, is that automatically entitled in case of death?
Yes and no.
And I have a question about your business. Is it dying?
Dying? No, it's actually exploding. That's a Max joke, I understand that. No one else got it. Now, what was the first question? Max?
First question. Oh, is there some way to put all this on my ex-wife and aggravate her?
Oh yeah, just keep going back to court appealing or not showing up, like maybe 3 times. Not show up before the judge says enough, and then he makes a judgment, then you can appeal it and go all the way through to this one for 300 million. I think that's going to go higher, a lot longer.
On your left, please.
Is it possible to leave your goods, your assets to someone who doesn't have an ID card? For example, a Thai who doesn't have an ID card.
How old?
Because I heard you can leave your assets to your cat or your dog. So why? But how?
Well, I have a couple of goldfish. You can leave it to them. I'll look after it. Don't worry. No, how old is this person without an ID?
52.
Why don't they? Oh, okay, they probably cross border or something, are they? They should go to City Hall and get an ID. At least some ID. I've done wills for Cambodian, Burma, Vietnam. As long as there's some form of ID, like a passport, they must get some ID, otherwise they're persona non grata. Just tell them to try and find one.
Thank you.
That's a lovely lady.
Now, tell me, if I understand you correctly, to avoid the 40%, if really every country where we have assets, is that enough?
Well, this only came across my desk maybe 7 days ago. And so the man, I said, if I had to put that in there, would you accept that? And they said yes. But at the end of the day, when I try to act on it, they'll probably say, oh no, we want something different. So there's no way of really doing this. So I said, all right, the will I did on Friday was for different countries, but I had to specify them. Jersey, Luxembourg, Thailand. As long as I put it in there, we had some kind of control, some jurisdiction. If it's not there, most of our wills just say, Thailand assets only, to be dealt with in a Thai court. So if someone has different assets in different countries, then I would think, go and do the will there, but then you need an executor in Luxembourg, or you need an executor in Isle of Man. It just becomes ridiculous.
Not really. It saves 40%.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, get a book, have all the access codes in there. Don't go through that.
Yeah, but when we were advised to make a will here and to make a will in the other country. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Sure.
So is that wrong?
No, it's not. It's when you're trying to act on it and you go through the legal system.
How would they know that one got assets in the other one? Because you don't know. You only got that will from here.
Yeah. Covers Thailand assets only.
Yeah.
If someone wants to complicate everything, then they should have a will in that country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it complicated? Because
Well, you're
if I
adding
make a
into it.
will for you, for our Australian, for our local asset here, you would not know if you got anything in the other two countries. So, hey, and the will is done.
Sure. But then if you had anything in the UK, HM Tribunal would say on that question, do you have any foreign assets? And if you answer incorrectly, that's an issue for you.
Well,
Excuse me, maybe you could talk about it after the meeting.
Yeah, you can see me later.
Other people.
Yeah, we can work it out. Oh, question time. Okay.
Hi Kelvin, thanks for your talk. I made a will, a UK will, to cover for my daughter who's only dependent in the UK. I made a Thai will to cover for my long-term partner here. I worry about the things you just said a long time ago. I always have the 800,000 in the bank for the retirement visa, but I know how long it's going to take for her to get money. To get over that, I opened a joint account and we both individually signed for it. What can I even still worry about it now? If I passed away tomorrow, can she still draw out the money, or does she have to run down to the bank and take the money out?
Do you have an ATM?
Will they freeze that account, the joint account, where she can draw, you know, her signature only? We've done it before, we've tested it. But I worry now, would the bank be freezing everything as soon as they're notified you've passed away?
No, they don't freeze things in Thailand. You need a grant from the court to go there. Say, I wanted to freeze someone's account. I would need to go and get a grant from the court and then go to the bank and say, I want this account frozen.
Yeah,
they don't just do it. There's no database linking it all up to say, this person's dead, freeze everything. It doesn't happen.
But would they freeze a joint account also?
No. No, they don't freeze because they don't know. And if they did know, there's a stack of paper like this that you have to take down there with the death certificate and the cremation certificate and a whole bunch of things there to say, close this account down. It just won't happen.
Okay, that's good.
Does she have a card? Do you have a card with a pin?
With a bank book already, we've tested it out, she went and got money on her own and signed it.
That's fine.
Not a card, no, just a bank book, bank account.
That's good enough.
That's okay, she doesn't have to rush down there and
No.
when I go.
Understand, they're not going to freeze your account. They don't do work voluntarily. They only do it when they have to.
No, I just wonder, even the fact that because it's a joint account, individual signatures.
No, that's all right.
They wouldn't freeze it.
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Scanning. Judith.
Trying to make it a quick question. I've always wondered what will happen if Les puts his clogs before me. We have the 800,000 baht necessary, you know, in Les's name, because you can only have it in one person's name.
Yeah.
And I keep threatening him that if he is going to go before me, he's not allowed to go for 3 months before our renewal date.
Sure.
What will happen, please?
Well, Les, can you get an ATM card? You got an ATM card? And a PIN? Yes. That's it. You're the beneficiary.
I've got to get it all out very, very quickly. Because
you can take it out, I think 100 grand a day, something like that, unless you increase the limit.
But I'm not going to give it to her in case.
Just take it out and put it on 8 black, you'll win for sure. Okay. 100%.
Okay, thank you very much, mate.
I'm eating into the next.
Okay. Another speaker.
All right, another speaker coming up.
Can we do the plaques later as a group? No. Can we do the plaques together as a group?
Dana.
Okay.
And Kelvin will be around for like private consultation after the thing, and you go and see him in his office. He's Aussie, so he's pretty approachable.
Storm, yeah. There's some new forms on the table at the back there in case you want one. All right, thank you for your attention.